Hey, this is Dave Pryor. Welcome to Agile 2019. Here in the Leading Agile booth, we're doing interviews all week long with speakers and thought leaders. Heather Dunning is here. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me, Dave.
So one of the things that's unique this year is there's a self-care track, which is different for this space. Really cool thing. And you were the first person to talk. And of all the descriptions I read for the speakers, yours is the one I was like, oh my God, I have to interview this person. So I am very excited to hear about what happened with Calm the Storm in your mind this morning.
It was absolutely a huge success.
Okay.
It couldn't have been better timing after Chris, who was the keynote
opening
this morning.
keynote.
Yep, the opening keynote. And Sam, who's the leader of the track, she's going to be there for all of the speakers
Okay.
and see how the track goes. It was a full room for the most part, and I really feel that people turned out for themselves. One of the things that Chris was talking about in his keynote was productivity. And really, we can't have efficient productivity if we're not grounded to the earth, if we're not centered inside ourselves, and if we don't allow all the voices in our head to constantly disturb, distort, and create discord within us, right?
Okay.
So the people who showed up, honestly, I just kind of want to give a shout out, because if they do watch this, it took a lot of bravery and courage to try something new.
Especially in the first day.
Oh my God.
In a room full of strangers.
Absolutely. Because some of it was very intimate work. So even though part of it with the Qigong was easy and we had fun and it was very playful and it left everyone feeling very energized at the end, the beginning was with the grounding cord, bringing everybody into their center. And you and I both know, with a conference of this size, it's extremely overstimulating and overwhelming. And so when people came in and they started to ground and they started to kind of close their eyes and just go inward, yawning, right?
Yeah.
And it's that moment where when you're cutting out all the static and you're cutting out all the noise, your body is tired.
Yeah.
It's been running like a machine, being pushed by you at every place.
Yeah.
So for people to just kind of come down and come in, you could tell they were sleepy. But by the end, and even in the middle where we were doing deeper work with the parts integration, we can talk a little bit about that later, and that's really like inner critic, inner child, inner cheerleader. People were just willing. They were willing to go there. I mean, there were tears shed in the room. There was deep transformation that happened. There were simple and easy to use tools that take less than 60 seconds that they can use throughout the whole entire conference and throughout the rest of their life. This isn't just about prepping them and preparing them for the success of this week.
Right.
This is about the whole conference, and what Agile speaks and shares is being authentic and transparent out in the world and sharing all of the knowledge that we gain in a workshop like this or a conference like this with the people back home.
And you have to be able to take care of yourself to take care of other people.
Put your oxygen mask on first, right? I mean, that's the theory.
That's a great way of explaining it.
Well, the other thing too, not to go off on a tangent, but to simply say, I'm an outsider, right? And I got invited in. I feel like I'm a part of this elite, group that I didn't even know existed till a few years back, or even a few months ago, a few years back. And now it's like I realize that my role here is to support the supporters. Everybody here are caregivers, including myself.
Yeah.
But the key is that one of the missing elements of this phenomenal group of people is that you guys aren't taking care of yourself. And it's obvious.
Okay.
I say it with love, but it's obvious.
Yeah.
People are tired. They're not getting sleep. They're not
And by the
honoring
end of
their
the week,
bodies.
it's going to be even worse.
Even worse. It could be worse. But I know that for the people at least who came this morning, most of them came up and said, I feel like I'm equipped. I feel like I have something to move forward and not get so overstimulated.
Okay, that's awesome. So I want to back up a little bit.
Of course.
You were talking about all the voices in your head.
Sure.
And one of the things I was hoping to ask you about, when I talk to people about doing meditation, things like that, a lot of them feel that when they meditate, which they can't do because they can't sit there.
They think they can't do it.
And they think that they're supposed to just silence the voices in their head.
Impossible.
And that's not the point of it.
No.
So can you comment on that? Like what?
Sure. Can I reference the movie Inside Out? Because that's kind of where I go.
Sure.
And you said you had a child or children.
Say hi, Chris. Say hi to the people. It's That's Chris.
We love all the support team. And actually, I'll say this. To make this conference run, there's all these hidden support members that we might not even see. We see the ones in purple, right? But there's ones that aren't wearing purple that are still supporting.
And the folks from Elastic and Chris. And
everything, the sound people, the engineers, the videographers, the people getting the water and the coffee and the tea. Every single thing is important. Every role, every part plays a huge symbol in the whole circle of what we experience. Well, it's the same way with the voices in our head.
Okay.
But the challenge is oftentimes we judge, a part of us judges the other voices because they're not doing it the way that voice wants. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So instead of seeing it as a cohesive team on the inside of our inner dialogue, there's a lot of judgment happening. And at times, indecisiveness, a war going on, one part wants to do it one way, another part wants to do it another, whatever that might look like for the
Another
person.
part's just saying you suck, you should have gone to bed early
Judgment.
last night.
Absolutely. Judgment. So for those of you that have seen the movie Inside Out, that Pixar did a phenomenal job of creating a couple years back, you're going to understand the reference. And for those of you that haven't, I would highly recommend you see the movie. Even though it's animated and you might not have a kid, we all have a child within us that have you seen it?
I have not, but I've read about it.
But you know it. Okay. So basically Pixar took a concept that we're talking about that's kind of complicated, and they simplified it in a way that a 3-year-old to a 93-year-old could understand.
4 emotions.
5. Right? So we've got joy, right? We've got sadness, which was color-coded in blue. Yeah. And joy kind of wants to put sadness in the corner. We want to avoid our sadness because we're afraid that if we actually lean into sadness, sadness will take over everything, which is what happened in the movie. And then at the end of the movie with sadness, because I really feel everyone here should hear this, is what joy realized is that the gift that sadness brought was the gift of empathy. And every single person in this room has that for the teams.
And we all talk about it.
And we all talk about it, right? But we don't do it with the voices in our head. We do it outside, but not inside. The other voices are anger, which I love, that's in the color.
Red.
Red, of course. And when he loses his bleep, right, his little hat flies off and his flames start shooting out, And who in the human experience hasn't had that happen, right? We've all had it. Even if you're calm, cool, and collected, you've had moments where anger comes in and rules the roost. What I use for an example of where anger can be positive, because we see anger as a negative, but quite honestly, anger can be one of our biggest protectors and one of the places where we can do the most deep self-healing, right? And anger is that place where, like, Mothers Against Drunk Driving is an example I use. That was a group that was laden with sadness and anger, laden with it. And they took that anger and they took that sadness and they created not only the group, MAD, interesting enough, right? MAD, but they also changed the laws. They were instrumental in changing laws.
And
had a massive impact in our whole entire culture. So that shows that when we actually lean into a part and we accept it and nurture it, it doesn't necessarily take over. As a matter of fact, it does, this is huge, it does just the opposite because it feels loved. It feels loved, accepted, and appreciated, and seen, and heard, so it doesn't have to scream at us. It goes, oh, okay, she or he gets it, and now I'm going to back off, and I'm going to allow.
Kind of ease up a little bit. I always think of it as like respecting it.
Absolutely.
Like when I have all that stuff going on, monkey
chaos.
mind going on, just, it's okay. It's here, it's what's happening, but don't, I guess from the meditation thing, try not to dance with it. So I'm sitting there, I'm stressed out about something, it pops into my head. I can either like dive into it and dwell on it and build it myself, or I can be like, this is making me super anxious. This is happening. I'm just going to breathe through it and then let go of it as best I can.
What I love
and not judge it.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I love about what you said, and this is a good reframe for those that are watching, I really want anybody who's watching this video to walk away with some great takeaways. You know, even if they missed the workshop, it's okay. They'll walk away with something. So this one is like, all right, say again what you just said about the dancing. So you don't want to like give your power away to it, basically. You don't want it to take over.
I don't want to feed it. Respect that it's here, acknowledge it. So one of the teachers that I used to have for meditation would talk about not right now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And actually this will be a good segue too. You can say not right now to a part, but you kind of want to set up a conversation for later.
Same way you would in a daily scrum.
Absolutely. And I think what was so cool about coming and talking to this group is each and every person here has the tools. They're just not using them inside, but they have them. You guys are primed for this stuff, right? So like with anger, for instance, it's just a part. So one of the, I don't want to say mistakes we make, but one of the habits that we have is we'll say, I am so angry, right? And really what I want people to start reframing or retraining their brain to say is a part of me is experiencing anger right now.
Okay.
And it separates, but you know when you're dealing with a team that's confrontational, sometimes you gotta separate to bring them back together.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's impossible to try to get it when it's already sticky, right? So we wanna unblend, and we unblend by simply acknowledging that it's not our whole self. It's just a part.
Just a piece of it.
Just a piece, and that piece needs an acknowledgement like a crying baby.
Okay.
We would never treat a crying baby the way we treat some of the voices in our head.
Yeah.
But if we use the same system of, if this baby was crying, what would you say to it?
Yeah.
I see you, I hear you, I love you, I feel you. How can I support you?
So there's something, I can't remember if it was a Brene Brown book or someplace else, but the quote was, treat yourself the way you would treat someone you love.
Absolutely.
And I think that's...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So how does this connect with Qigong and what you made them do in the room?
Sure. You know, one of the things that I actually got to do before I did the proposal is Lisa Atkins, who I know is really well known here, and she gave me permission to say this, but I've actually been working as her healer and guide for years. And I did not want to tell anybody that when I was doing the proposal because I wanted it to be sincere and authentic. And if they picked me, great. And if they didn't,
I'm glad that you said this because when I read it, I'm like, how did she find out?
How did she find it? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so Lisa actually was kind enough. And even though our relationship started, because I didn't know Agile. Right. Her being a rock star she's my client, right? At the time. She's a dear friend now, but she was my client at the time. So in my mind, I was like, how do I even fit into this world? And she said, you're exactly what this world needs. Our Agile world, you're exactly what they need. Would you be willing to come and share? Would you be willing to do a proposal? I said, sure. She walked me through the process of what you guys needed for the proposal. And we got a minute to talk about the pain points. I wanted to know, what are the hardest things to manage, deal with, or you feel overwhelmed by being here this whole week? So you can imagine what they are. Tell me your top one.
So I'm a total introvert, and I'm going to do 40 interviews in 4 days, and I'm like a broken shell by the end of the week.
I'll hug you when we're done.
I mean, I'm literally like, it takes me a month to recover.
I imagine.
But I love it, and this is the best week of the whole year.
It's amazing. It's amazing. It's bittersweet, right? It's the best week of the whole year, and I'm exhausted. That type of feeling. So we knew that there was overstimulation. That was one of our pain points. Indecision. So one of the big things was, how do I decide which track to go to?
Because you don't want to miss the best one.
Right.
And the one you want to go to is overcrowded.
Right. How do I know when to get up from a room? How do I, right? So that was the other one. And then the third one, actually, interestingly, and I'll be brave in saying this because it might be sensitive, is the inclusion between the old timers and the newbies. So that's huge, right? So those 3 pain points is what actually made me decide on how to choose what I was going to share. I have a lot of wonderful tools in my toolbox, but it was a matter of how do you narrow down to 75 minutes and give people something that's fun, easy,
that they can use,
memorable, yes, and usable, exactly. But if they can use it and don't remember it, or use it and can't retain it, or use it because it's too complicated, what do? We throw it in the wastebasket and we keep on trucking. So it had to be something that was easy. And so the grounding, that's what we need to be doing in the morning, in between sessions, throughout our life, to just clear, ground, center. It can take less than 60 seconds. The parts integration was really designed for inner critic, as we talked about, inner child, inner cheerleader, and that was about every single person here has those 3 parts inside of them. Every single one. And if they have a war going on between those 3 parts while they're here, they're not going to be able to be present in any presentation they're at because the voices are going off, right? And then the third part, Qigong, was really so they could end on a high note because that parts integration's deep. I mean, people were like ready to go to sleep afterwards and go up to their room and maybe cry a little. And it's not about crying like, oh, feel sorry. It's a release. I had 3 people come up and say, oh my gosh, I haven't released like that in years, and I feel lighter than I have in years.
That's awesome.
And another man come up and say, my whole shoulder pain is gone. Another one say, oh, my knees aren't aching. So the amount of energy they released just from understanding where they held stuff in their body. And then the Qigong, you asked, I know you were interested in Qigong, and we might do something here, but it was about how can I energize them and invite and inspire them to continue to do something fun and easy and not see it as this complicated martial arts or form that they don't know. There's no perfection needed in Qigong. Okay. It's just breathe, move.
So how would you explain to somebody who doesn't know what it is?
Qigong or something else?
Qigong.
Have you heard of Tai Chi?
Yeah, I know what they are.
Okay. Well, do me a favor and tell me your definition of Tai Chi.
So I would say that Tai Chi is an ancient form of movement. It is considered a martial art, even though it's not often practiced as combat, where you're trying to help the energy flow through you.
Yep.
And find a better way to move through space for your own
health. And how many years have you been practicing?
Oh, I did it. I'm not practicing now, but I did it for about 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. So you know, as well as I know, that with Tai Chi, and for those of you that haven't heard of either, they're both beautiful, but they're both very different. And to me, in my opinion, the difference is Tai Chi being a form of martial arts, right? Where you're really using your opponent or the energy coming at you to actually throw them off. So instead of being in defensive posture, as most martial arts is, it's really allowing the energy to falter itself.
Being as soft as you can.
Being as soft and flexible as you can. In that, it's similar to Qigong. To me, it takes a lot more discipline, and you really want to learn the forms. I don't want to say perfectly, but there's something to be said about
the same way you would with yoga.
Absolutely. Yeah. Where with Qigong, it's just moving breath meditation. It's ancient too. It's moving. If anybody here's familiar with acupuncture or Eastern medicine in any way, it's going to move your chi, also known as energy, CHI, in case for those that don't know it. It's all that is energy, so don't be intimidated by the word. I think sometimes we see foreign language, like I've seen here at Agile. You guys speak language. I'm like, what's open space? What's, is it Agile or is it Agile? I don't freaking know. I think we go both ways. Yeah. But, so it's just learning the language. They don't have to be intimidated by either. And I think sometimes in our culture, especially right now with our health epidemic, is we use exercise as this very daunting word. Oh my gosh, I haven't exercised enough. Oh, I need to exercise. Oh, have you exercised? Oh, you saw him exercise, right? Whatever it is. But with this, I say movement therapy or movement practice or breath and movement. And so it's really about not putting pressure on yourself to show up and do 45 minutes of an exercise and sweating out all the goodies. That's great too. And I love the people that are already doing it. But for those of you that aren't and don't have time, we have time to do a 2-minute Qigong. We have time to do 10 minutes.
So is it fair to say, I've always thought of it as a way of kind of unlocking wherever the energy's trapped. We want to create more, in the same way, actually to tie it back to Agile, the same way that we're always trying to increase throughput and flow and get rid of the waste in the system that's blocking us. This is you doing that for your own internal energy system.
Absolutely. And some of the benefits you might feel right away. I'll just share, I went around the room and had everybody kind of just one word, what do you feel? Some of the words that came up were energized, joyful, open-spaced. They felt open and like they had created a space. They felt less pain, less inflammation, less hesitation. There was this, once you step in, once you step into the flow, as you know with Tai Chi and really life and meditation, is you're not resisting.
Right. You can fight against it or you can go along.
Go up the current or keep on going down the current. And I think it just opens up the current.
Okay. So we're going to try an experiment.
Sure.
Would you show?
Yes.
And then I'm going to ask you questions about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
How am I?
Oh, wait, here. Okay.
Can you hear me? Yes? Okay. So we're just going to do a simple one because obviously there's not a lot of room. And I don't want to do ones that, I'm going to go down my body and people can't see me. So here's one that you can do in the morning when you wake up. You can do it before a meeting. If you don't want to do it in front of people and you're in a cubicle environment or you're at the office, go to the bathroom. Nobody's going to see you. You can do this after a big meeting, if something has kind of thrown you and you feel like a confrontation has kind of made static, created static in your body, right? So you're going to start by taking both your hands. You're going to place them on your lower abdomen. I know you can't see my abdomen, but you'll trust that it's there.
Right around your belly.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate that. You can also, and this is something I think in Tai Chi they talk about too, is take 3 fingers, place the top finger underneath your navel, right underneath. Wherever that 3rd finger falls, that's the core of your being. That's the core of your body. Your Dantian. Thank you so much for saying that. I appreciate that. So anyways, once you do that, you're going to place your hands palm on palm right there. And you're going to to begin by making sure first, how are you standing? Are your shoulders back? Is your chin tucked in? Is your pelvis slightly forward? Make sure you have soft knees, right? Oftentimes we're locking our jaw, we're locking our pelvis, we're locking our knees.
And you just want awareness.
Yeah, exactly. And what is that? That's creating more resistance.
Okay.
Because every place where we're on lockdown, we'll start to feel pain pretty soon. Can you still hear me okay? Okay, no problem. Better? Okay. So let's begin. I'll just do 3 rounds, right? So we're going to inhale and bring the arm up. And on the exhale, we're going to fin down the middle line of the body. And then on the inhale, we're going to reverse. And we're going to fin all the way down the body. For those that can still hear, again, second round.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'll end on to round 2 just to save time. Inhale, big, 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 stretching out like an airplane, and then fin down the middle. And then whatever round you choose to end on, you're going to end with your hands back in center again. Allow your eyes to close, and part of the reason for this is our eyes are focused on everything and they become overstimulated, and our body starts to absorb almost immediately. So when you close your eyes, you go, oh, center, right? You feel it. You can really not only make sure your pelvis and everything is still in alignment at that point, but this is a time when you can do a positive I am, which I know for some might be cheesy because it's getting overused, but the truth is there's nothing quite like a powerful I am. And we're doing a lot of low vibrational I ams. I'm tired. I am angry. I am frustrated. I don't want to be here, right? Those are all kind of ones that are literally going to suck the energy out of our body. But if we're at our center and we say, I am courageous, I am bold, I am confident, I am love, I am joy, and then we allow that to emanate, this takes less than 60 seconds.
Okay.
There's just no reason. I think in our culture, especially even in this one, because it's very fast moving, we go, we don't have time, we don't have time. But you don't have time at this point coming into 2020 to not take 60 seconds.
Okay. So, and you probably couldn't see it, but when you brought your hands together, you kind of dropped back like, I don't know how to describe it. It's not like a sitting position. Your weight goes back.
Pelvis.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't know I was going to mention this, but even though I'm a talker, obviously,
right,
I'm also a voyeur. Okay. And I've been really watching everybody. Ever since I got here yesterday, I wanted to know my audience and I wanted to see the people. And I really just want to say I love all of you. This is one of the most amazing groups. I've been all around the world. I've done many different things. And I love this tribe. And I'm grateful to be sharing time with you guys. Grateful to be a supporter of the supporters. That being said, 2 things I'm noticing here. Many, but 2 things I'll talk about. You're holding your jaw really tight, because we're cerebral thinkers. Your whole group is very cerebral. So, you're holding your jaw really tight, and you will not find what I'm about to say in any medical book. Doctors aren't going to tell you, even chiropractors won't tell you, but I know this from working with the body for decades.
Yeah.
When your jaw is tight, your pelvis is tight. When your pelvis is tight, your jaw is tight.
Okay.
So if you can relax one of them, if you can bring consciousness to at least one of them,
okay,
the other will fall into alignment. If you adjust your pelvis, it's hard to hold your jaw tight.
Wow. I never
If you
thought of
relax
that.
your jaw, you'll feel it all the way down your pelvis.
Okay.
And what's the reason for that? I didn't know I was going to give this information either, but I'm just going to go with it.
Okay.
Some of you have never heard of what's called the psoas muscle. Have you heard of it, Dave?
I have heard of it.
Okay. You know how to spell it?
No.
Nope. Capital P.
My wife does.
Okay. Capital P, SOAS, just in case people want to look it up.
Okay.
The psoas muscle is one of the biggest abdominal muscles in the body.
Okay.
It stretches, it's the only muscle in the whole body that connects our top half to our bottom half.
Okay.
It's also the only muscle that's connected to the fight or flight response.
Huh.
There's 3 movements in fight or flight.
Okay.
Play dead,
Right.
fetal, and fight.
Okay.
Right? Those are the 3 positions. The psoas controls all of them. It lies very, very deep. It connects all the way down to your hip and comes all the way up underneath your rectus abdominis, so underneath all your belly muscles, comes all the way up and attaches underneath your rib cage.
Okay.
It's gigantic, right? It's very hard to work in things like massage. But when you're doing things like Qigong, Tai Chi, yoga, you're working with the connective tissue that can cause that muscle to be tight.
Okay.
Why is this important? Anxiety.
Okay.
Fight or flight.
I'm chopping it in there and it's locking everything up.
It's locking everything in. So if you can unlock your jaw and unlock your hips and release your psoas, you're already doing more than most.
All right. Can I go?
Yeah. Sidebar.
One- No, I just want to ask about the movement.
Sure.
So when I was taught to do that,
Yeah.
I was taught both hands at once, like you're scooping up the light and pushing it down through. You went one arm at a time.
It's a different exercise.
Okay.
Neither is wrong.
Okay.
So, one of the things I talk about is people will say, like I'll say, inhale through your nose, exhale out your mouth. And especially my runners and various people will say, well, am I breathing wrong if I don't do that? And I go, there's no wrong breath. If you're breathing, you're alive. Hallelujah.
Or where on the roof of your mouth is your tongue supposed to be?
Right. Okay, so we're not shooting for perfection here. We're just happy that the body's alive and we're breathing.
Okay.
But each and every breath or movement does something different. So if you're breathing in and out of your nose in the military, that's good because it keeps you alive.
Yeah.
Why? Because it keeps you cerebral. It keeps all your energy here and it doesn't allow it to go all the way down to your feet. That's great if you're in the military or if you're running a race or if you're doing something where you have to be cerebral. But if you're attempting to unlock something and get into the flow, you want to shift your breath.
Okay.
Now, your question was, why didn't I do this? That's a great one, and I love that exercise.
Why is it one hand at a time?
So that particular exercise actually balances the left and right side of the brain.
Okay.
It actually brings in alignment, right? It's bringing in, think of like a figure eight, right? Even though it doesn't look like a figure eight, it kind of is, right? It's going back and forth, where this is great. And actually, you could combine them. So you could do mine first and balance, or yours for energy.
Okay.
So yours is going to be really about gathering energy and bringing as much energy as you can, and whoa, right?
And often stopping to unlock my jaw.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So this, for you, it might be better to do this and come into balance and centered, which will help you feel less anxious or concerned or whatever, less stressed, and then do your energy builder.
Okay. So in some ways,
right or wrong.
This might be too much of a stretch, but in programming, there's certain things you want to do in a certain order.
Right.
And this is you programming the system.
Well, I love that you just said that. And one of the things I share too is we're living in a world right now where there's so many stereotypes. And there's so much symptomatic treatment, especially in Western culture. I know this is a global conference and there's people from all over the world. But at least in America, you and I are both clear, it's symptomatic treatment.
And we talk about that in organizations all the time.
Thank you. Oh, the symptoms, treating the symptoms instead of getting into the root. Yeah, absolutely. Remind me of the question again, because I got excited.
Totally forgot.
Shit.
No, I was talking about programming. I didn't have a question. This one's on you.
Okay.
Programming.
Yes, programming. So for some things, I think order does matter.
Okay.
So I don't want to completely say order doesn't. However, each and every one of us is an individual. And even though we're part of a collective whole, one of the things I am starting to notice, and what I want to continue to see in the paradigm shift in our culture around the world, global consciousness, is you're not a number, and you're not like the person sitting next to you, even if there's similarities. Honor
and you're not what your parents told you you were.
Thank you. That's a big one. Dave, thank you so much for adding that. That's gigantic, right? That goes back to the part stuff. Honor what's coming up for you in that moment. If you want to nose breathe. If you're not ready to release your jaw, don't freaking release your jaw. We know in the Agile world that if somebody's not willing and ready, they're not willing and ready, and you can't push them. So if a body part isn't ready, if a breath isn't ready, if a thought isn't ready, show up and be present for you where you are.
Be okay with it not being ready.
And be okay with it not being ready.
Cool. This was really
Find
great.
your own rhythm.
I'm really glad that you're here, and I really appreciate you doing the interview.
Oh, this was great. Are we good?
Yeah, we're good. So, and thank you for helping all these people have a better conference.
Also too, just a shout out for those that do participate. I'm just going to do this for Sam, the curator of the track. For those of you that participate in any self-care this week, because it's new, she's inviting to please fill out the feedback surveys. We want to make sure that we get feedback, see how people enjoyed it. Is it something that we want next year, and what would that look like? So we appreciate it if you're willing.
Cool, thank you. And what if people want to get in touch with you? What's the best way to do that?
So I'm Heather, spelled just like Heather, V as in Victoria, and Dunning. So heathervdunning.com.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Good job.
That was awesome.
All right, keep watching all week. We're going to be doing interviews with speakers and thought leaders here at Agile 2019.